Good morning, Cincinnati, and welcome into another episode of the Bearcat Brunch, brought to you by our wonderful partners at Royal Links Golf Tours. Have you always wanted to play St. Andrews? Have you ever enjoyed a perfect pint of Guinness in Ireland? Well, if you want to do those things, reach out to Royal Links Golf Tours. They are a golf tour specialist offering unforgettable golf experiences to Scotland, England, Ireland, and Wales. Their custom itineraries are more than golf trips. They are immersive, cultural, and country experiences that will surprise and delight you both on and off the course. Royal Links Golf Tours is owned by former Bearcat quarterback Hayden Moore and his partner, UC alum Jeff Bartholomew. So if you'd like to play St. Andrews or Ballybunion or enjoy that perfect pint of Guinness, visit their website at royallinksgolftours.com or call them directly at 770-331-1525. And with that, we are back to discuss a very impressive opening week win for the Bearcats over EKU, 66-13. I am joined, as always, by my partner, Jeff Howell on the Brunch. And then this morning we have Hayden Moore, quarterback of the Bearcats and partner with Jeff Bartholomew at Royal Links Golf Tours. How are you guys doing this morning?
Feeling good.
Well, we'll get right into it. Start just with Hayden. You got to take in some of the game yesterday. Do you watch games from the quarterback perspective, or do you now kind of just watch them as a general fan?
Yeah, unfortunately, I have to see it as the perspective of the quarterback and the coaches. So you probably wouldn't like watching a game with me. Every single play, there's something going wrong, and I'm pointing it out. So I can't enjoy it anymore.
That guy should have done this, and it's a 30-yard play, and you're like, seeing how it could have been a 50-yard play.
That was about a foot too far outside,
Yep.
Like
so what did you think? I mean, there was a lot of questions coming into this season, new coaching staff, a lot of new players, especially on the offensive side of the ball. What was kind of your big impression that you took away from game one?
coming in with a new coach, I think that they looked well put together. When Fickle came in our first year, there was a lot of mistakes on the offense. There was a lot of mistakes on the defense. It didn't look as great, fundamentally. Like, we had a lot of penalties, per se, and they looked good. Offense looked amazing, and it's really all you could ask for your first game.
I thought that as well. Like, that was the big thing I was looking for, was just how does the operation look? Are you burning timeouts because you don't want to get delay game penalties, or guys lining up wrong, or guys jumping off sides? And I thought, for the most part, that was pretty clean. And it was hot, and you got a lot of new people in new positions. So to have that go well in week one, I thought was a good sign. Just Emory Jones, obviously he's the story of the game. 7 total touchdowns, 19 for 23. What were some of the things that you saw in his game that you liked? And then what were kind of some of the things that from a quarterback standpoint, that when they go back and watch the film, he'll be like, I could have done this differently. I probably should have done this better here.
Well, always having the threat of the run is going to help tremendously. You're with him, you're probably not going to have as many rushes. You're going to have somebody kind of spying him. So it's going to give him a lot more time to get the ball off. And his throws were good. I didn't see anything bad. Like I said, I saw a little bit of the second and the third quarter. So, they were just rolling. And the second string guy looked good too, 4 for 4 with a touchdown. Pretty solid there. Obviously not the first string defense, but, still looking good.
Jeff, what do you got for Hayden? Oh, can't hear you.
I think I'm muted.
There you
go. Yeah, I went on mute when we started. That just like we've touched on with Emory kind of rolling in there. I think he only had four incompletions, and then like being able to build up. This is an entirely new wide receiver core. I think. Well, I guess that's not fair because Xavier Henderson, they played together at Florida, but like he looked as if he was like they were all on the same page all the time, like throughout. Like, how difficult is that for like everybody else to understand how difficult that is to get that level on that level that quickly from
Yeah.
spring ball till now?
Yeah, especially with just the amount of time they've had. It's impressive because there's a lot that goes into that. There's a lot of film watching with the receivers to know when they're going to break into a route, what type of route they're going to run here. Because a lot of the times those routes are two options. You either cut or go, and he's got to know which one so he can throw it on time. So I'm sure, the way they looked, obviously, I'm thinking they had a lot of extra time with just the QBs and the receivers watching film together, because that's the way it looked. You don't come out that clean and have that good of a relationship with QB wide receiver relationship without putting in some extra work.
When you do have sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
Oh no, this is just more of a fun question. Do you think you could have transitioned to wide receiver like Evan Prater?
Oof. Well, one, I'm not that fast. Two, no, it's not that easy. It's not just cut and dry. Hey, you move here and know how to do all the routes and all the blocking, and it's a totally different transition. And for him to just jump into it, I think, what was it? Beginning of camp is when it happened.
Yep.
And that's like a month ago. I mean, it's unreal. And obviously he's got the athletic ability, so it's just a matter of running the routes the right way. It's a lot of footwork into that. I'm sure he's put a lot of work into it, and hands just come naturally. A lot of quarterbacks think that they have the best hands on the team, and I also thought that. So that part would have been easy.
Yeah, you talk about the footwork and the just running the routes. Like, I don't think people truly sometimes understand that. If a route calls for 9 yards and you break it off at 9, you can't break it off at 10. Like, they're getting that whole cadence of how many steps it takes me to get to, where I need to be, and not rounding routes off. Like, I have to really break, there's a lot that goes into just all of a sudden being like, yeah, I'm just going to play a totally different position now.
And that's one thing that's really good for a quarterback moving to receiver, because they know everything that the quarterback is thinking. They know what they should do in certain situations. So having the perspective of QB being a receiver, I mean, it's really, really good.
Yeah, I think he mentioned in an interview.
Thank you, Tonk, for the donation. Yes, it's we're very happy to have Hayden joining us for this show and another one later on in the season. So go ahead, Jeff.
I was just gonna say, Evan had mentioned in in one of his interviews, like, somebody asked him, like, "Hey, are you gonna go back to the quarterback and be like, hey, like, I saw," he's like, "I don't need to do that. Like, if a quarterback makes a mistake, they know what they did wrong.
Yeah.
I don't need to go back, because like, I'm sure there's something that I'm going to do wrong out here, wide receiver, that's going to screw it up. So like, I don't need to go back and tell the quarterback what they're doing wrong."
Well, one thing that he would be able to do is like, listen, I know you're I'm your second progression. At this time, if the defender's here, I'm going to cut here. Stuff like that he can easily talk to Emory about, and they can be on the same page. But yeah, he's not going to go to Emory and tell him what he did wrong. We know, and we're going to hear it later in film too. So I'm sure Evan has a good understanding of that.
When you're a quarterback and you go through a coaching change, how is your role on the team kind of maybe different from just, anybody else, frankly? Like, you guys are kind of looked at to be the leaders. New coach comes, you dealt with it when Luke came in. Like, how is that for a quarterback? And then how hard is that probably for a guy like Emory, who he wasn't here, didn't know a lot. So he's coming in at the same time that the new coach is. So for them to all get on the same page and for him to be able to kind of take that leadership role that, quarterbacks are looked at to have.
Well, one thing to think about is you're also having a totally new offense to learn. So the quarterback has to be the one to learn it the fastest. and be able to teach everybody else. In practice, in the game, everybody's going to be coming to you for questions. So if you don't know your stuff, that's going to just bring the whole team down as well. Um, Unfortunately for us, when Fickle came in, we were creating a new offense at the same time. We didn't have a new offense ready. Um, so that brings in another element of the offense wasn't ready for us to learn until basically camp. So I think that actually hurt us a little bit, and that's why a lot of penalties maybe came up because honestly, they were up to camp putting together this new offense. They were merging two offenses together, and a little bit from our old offense, so it would help. But we had to learn everything from scratch, and that's tough for an offense, especially when you have to focus and not jump off sides and motion the right way. And you barely know this new offense, it gets tough. But with Emery coming from, just being on the team, I don't think there's too much that's going to be different for him besides um, not knowing some of the players, building the relationships that need to happen, having everybody trust you. That's a big thing. So that's probably the biggest. That was probably the biggest step there for him.
That is an interesting point you brought up with the offense, because in this case, Scott Satterfield's coming in. He knows this offense forwards,
Yeah.
and I mean he's run it for however many years. He's
Yeah.
brought in some coaches that know it, so it's yes, they're teaching it to the players, but the coaches aren't teaching it to each other, and they already know exactly. They're in meetings and stuff. They know exactly what it's supposed to look like. They know the little tendencies. They know the things you can do off of different plays. So it definitely gives them a much further along starting point than what you just referenced.
Yeah, and day one, they're learning the offense right when he came in. I mean, they get a packet with everything on it, and they're able to start learning every single play. And they're having meetings, explaining each play. And this is months before camp, right? So
tell me a little bit about CFL experience.
yeah,
What was that like, and how is that different than how is it getting used to the different rules and the size of the field and all that stuff?
Yeah, the rules kind of came, with it. It's there was nothing too crazy besides the snap count and timing up receivers, because receivers are running full speed from 10 yards down. So each cadence, you're having to do the same so that receivers know when to get to the beginning of the line. So, and then sometimes your cadence is on 2 and you have to delay and make sure the receivers. So it's more on the receivers, it's all on the receivers. We know our cadence. We're going to do it the same way, but these guys are running full speed. And by the time they get to the line, we're saying hut, and they're running full speed. That was the craziest part. When I went to rookie camp and we were doing that, that was insane because these guys are running slants at Mach 10, and I have to get the ball out, and they're already, 15 yards down the field on my second step. So it definitely makes it fun because every cornerback is not going to be press coverage with those guys there. So that's cool. As far as rules, you're going to be surprised. There's a lot. No way. Is that Garrett Campbell?
I think it might be. I think it might be.
No way.
We get some celebs joining us every now and again.
What's up? That's my man. That's my man. What's up, Garrett? Yeah. As far as rules, it's there's a lot less rules. It's more of like responsibility that you have. For example, in college, your itinerary for game day is Friday morning. Let's start Saturday game 7:00. Friday morning, you're coming in for breakfast. You have meetings. You have walkthrough. You go to the hotel where you stay at 4:00. You have dinner. You have meetings. You have snack. Saturday morning, you wake up 7 a.m. You have a walk with a team. you have breakfast, you have meetings, you have downtime, you have walkthrough, you have more meetings, you have meal, and then you go to your game. In the CFL game, say the game's at 7 o'clock on Saturday. They say be there 3 hours before, and that's it. You got to be on time. You get ready yourself, and warm up start at a certain time. And that was the biggest shocker for me. I was like, wow, I'm sleeping in on a Saturday morning. That is crazy. Um, and yeah, but I loved the CFL. It was a really fun year. Unfortunately, we had COVID the next year. The season was canceled, and broke my foot. Going into the first COVID year, 2021, where there was no fans, no budget, and they're like, "Hey, you're hurt. Can't have you. We don't have the money. Sorry." And unfortunately, that was it. And I kind of, found a good sales job that I had, and I was already doing Royal Links, so I tried to put more time into that, and just kind of made my decision to move on. But we made it to the Grey Cup in 2019, so that was pretty cool for 1 year and done. We should have won, but unfortunately, we took the L. But it was a great. If I had to have 1 year, obviously being able to experience the Grey Cup was pretty cool.
Absolutely. What are your you guys, what your former players, and you still follow the team and everything? How, like, when the Big 12 stuff all started happening, and then it's actually in place? Like, did you guys talk about that a lot? Was there like a lot of discussion with the former players about what that all meant, and are you excited to check out any of the spots that they're going to go play this year?
I was looking at places and trying to figure out which one we would go to. I think we couldn't really figure out one. I'm in Atlanta, and there's no close spots to Atlanta.
No.
We're going to be at the homecoming game at Iowa State, so
Nice.
That'll be fun. And we don't really talk about it. We just like, how are we going to compare to, these bigger teams? If y'all remember, there was talks of Tommy Tuberville's team moving into the Big 12 or Big 10, and obviously, if we had had a good year and he stayed, that might have happened. But I think they chose other people instead, for obvious reasons. But yeah, going into this year, honestly, I'm just excited to see how we compare because everybody always counted us out the last couple of years, saying, "Oh, y'all aren't a Power 5 team, y'all can't compete." And then, you make it to the playoffs, and they're like, "Well, yeah, maybe now it's time to really prove yourself and see if we can have a good year against these teams."
Take us into how you got set up with Royal Links Golf Tours. Obviously, Jeff is also the UC alum, but how that came to be, and just kind of, I know because I'm a huge golfer and I've talked to you guys about it in the past. But like all the places you've got to go play, and now all the what you guys can do for you, not just UC fans, but in general. What you guys do to get them set up.
And we actually just sent a group of UC guys, and we've sent multiple UC people just from social media and hearing about it. But so my father-in-law, Jeff Bartholomew, he has been going to Scotland, Ireland, England, and Wales for 28 years. He goes every year, and he planned trips each year for his friends and family throughout the time. And they always told him to create a business. Like, come on, you need to do this for a living. And he never had enough time because he always had a full-time job that was a good job. So there was never any time. Well, I met his daughter 4 years ago in Nashville while I was training there after college, weirdly enough. We got married a year later, and I was in Canada at the time, or I was going to go back to Canada. And Jeff was like, "Hey, what are you going to do after CFL? Do you have any plans?" I was like, "No." And he said, "Well, I've been wanting to start this golf tour company, but I needed some help. Would you want to do that?" And I said, "Let's see. I love golf. I get to go to Scotland, Ireland, England, and Wales sometimes and plan trips. Sure, I'll do that. So we started the company during COVID, and we had a lot of downtime to get all the back end stuff ready. And it has been amazing. We're growing rapidly. A lot of people who have never been finally have the chance with somebody who can, book everything for them. And I got to go to Scotland last year for the first time. I went in July. Got to see the Open at St. Andrews, the 150th Open. My first trip to Scotland was just amazing. I couldn't expect anything more.
Yeah, that's a pretty good first go of it. Like you kind of set yourself up there.
Yep, we get there Friday morning and just head straight to the old course. We got tickets. We go and see everybody. We got to see, I got to see Tiger Woods play St. Andrews. So that alone was amazing. We were sitting in the stands in the 18th as he was walking down. And the two guys he was playing with walked ahead because they knew he was going to have a moment on the bridge. And he did. He kind of sat there and took his hat off, and he started crying on the way down. It was amazing. But just things like that people need to experience. And that's something we can obviously help with. So, and then we have next year, we have a couple things planned. We have a trip to Wales planned, a 5-star trip to Wales. It's going to be about 10 couples. And we've partnered with a Italy golf tourist company that has planned us an itinerary for Italy next September. It's going to be 3 rounds, 8 nights, 3 rounds of golf. You get to take a boat tour of Lake Gorda. You visit the city of Parma, which of course is where Parmesan cheese is made. But Jeff's been multiple times. He actually went with our partner Alberto last year, and we're very excited. We already have about 4 couples signed up, and we're only taking about 4 more. So if you are interested in that, just visit the website and let us know.
Yeah, it's all awesome. Like I had buddy and I had a trip set up. Some things happened, we had to cancel, but it's definitely more than just like trying to squeeze in as much golf as you can. You guys set it up to where you can really, this is a vacation. Like you want to just experience a lot of what these countries have to offer. Obviously you're going to play golf, but there's a lot of other stuff that people need to see. What is the best way for someone to reach out to you or Jeff when they want to get set up on a trip?
Well, the best way would be if you are serious about building a trip is on the website. There's a vacation customization form, and you can answer a couple of questions, and we'll be able to have enough information, give you a call, and start planning your trip. If you're very early on, you can just call us and we'll get some information, kind of explain how the process works. Usually we like to start planning a year in advance. So if you are thinking about it at all, and you just want to get some budget ideas, you want to get some ideas of where to go, when in the year to go, and just start that conversation at least a year out, because right now it is crazy. There's 3 courses in Ireland, Portrush, Royal County Down. Those courses are already full in some months for next year in 2024. And we had a group that wanted to go, and we're like, at a certain time, I'm like, well, there's actually no tee times. So unfortunately we're going to have to pick some other courses. Even in St. Andrews, hotels are getting booked up that are near the old course. So yeah, at least a year out for June, July, August. Yeah,
you guys got the website, royallinksgolftours.com. I know you got a podcast that you bring on some guests to talk golf and golf architecture and travel, golf travel, stuff like that. So we really appreciate you jumping on with us today. And, hopefully we'll see you when you guys come in for homecoming, and then we'll kind of have you on again at the end of the year to kind of see how this first year in the Big 12 went on. So Appreciate you jumping on early this morning, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks, Hayden.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
So that was Bearcat quarterback Hayden Moore joining us for a little bit to talk about the first game of the Scott Satterfield era. Like I said earlier, 66-13 victory. So, Jeff, I always go to you when we get these things going right away and just say, what was your initial reaction to the big UC win?
So I got home. I watched the game a little bit in reverse. I watched the second half when I got home from my son's game, and then I went back and watched the first half after I kind of already knew what was going to happen there. Incredibly impressed, and I know that we talked about it last week. Like the main things we were looking for going against an opponent like this, not to like take anything away from EKU, because the FCS program, they were very successful last year. Their quarterback is very good, but they're just like Hayden mentioned. They like the penalties weren't. I think there was one false start penalty the whole game, or at least in the first half. I don't know if I don't remember if there were any in the second half.
I think they had 7 total for 55 yards. So I mean, nothing outrageous.
And Emery's accuracy really impressed me. His deep ball impressed me. Like, obviously, like you said, he's kind of the story of the game. But then you got Xavier Henderson, 7 catches, 149 yards. Like, and he went up. There was one that he went up and just ripped the ball out of the air.
Yeah.
The receiving core is very impressive, and Emery was spreading the ball around. Running backs, I don't know that there was anybody that I was like, not get that guy off the field. Like, so that was all very impressive. Defense was kind of just like quietly going about their business. I mean, 13 points. Yeah, it's Eastern Kentucky, whatever, but like they just kind of did what, I didn't think there was anything like crazy spectacular there, but
yeah,
they didn't have to be. And I didn't expect any like exotic looks or any kind of special packages getting run out there, because there are going to be times for that coming up, and we're going to need it not to be on tape.
For sure. And I think that's we talked last week. I talked with Chad. Just how did it all look? Like, did they look? You have and Trevor Radosevich actually started the first 2 series at center, so you literally had 11 new starters on offense. And so, how did it look? Were guys looking at each other going, "I thought you were going to do this and you did that"? Were there timeouts because of guys aligning incorrectly? Like, it was just a very clean operation, especially offensively. Emory Jones, obviously the story. I mean, he's a new quarterback coming in, has been at Florida, has been at Arizona. We've talked a lot. Keegan's wrote some great pieces about him, just his mentality and just the way that he feels much different at UC than he felt at the other places. And the things that jumped out to me was he just really had like a lot of poise and pocket presence. I felt he stood in there really well until the last second on a couple throws, like the one specifically at the end of the half to Braden Smith. He was not in his probably first 2 progressions, and he stood in there, got hit, got it out to him at the last second. Like, there were a couple times where I felt like sometimes quarterbacks would, all right, my first read's not there, and I can run, I'm going to go. Mm-hmm. And he really didn't do that. Like, he wanted to stand in there. And on the one throw to Evan that probably should have been a touchdown, if he'd have even stood in there a little bit longer on that play, Evan would have cleared that guy that jumped up and knocked it down. So he's probably going to watch that and go, the rush wasn't quite there. If I'd have waited just a beat longer, I could have got it to him. But overall, I mean, he was really like very impressive, even given the opponent. They're a good FCS team. They're probably going to challenge to make the playoffs again this year. They're going to score a bunch of points against their similar competition. But for them to come out offensively with so much unknown, so many new pieces, to play that well was definitely encouraging moving forward.
It did not look like a team that has essentially been rebuilt from the bottom up, starting in January or whatever you want to, like, really when the ball started rolling on all of that. It was just, I expected there to be a lot, like at least some sloppiness of like noticeable sloppiness that maybe whatever, like maybe a couple turnovers here and there, or like expect, like you said, kind of maybe expecting a receiver to maybe run a certain route or break something off at some point where then the ball gets overthrown or thrown to an area where the receiver is now not, and it's just a DB standing there that catches the ball, and that just simply didn't happen. I mean, they looked like a team that has been together a lot longer than they have. And some of that, I guess, it
sure.
goes to the kind of like what, just kind of like what Hayden was saying with like when he came in, and I didn't know that. I don't even know if that was like known out there that they were like essentially rebuilding an offense and trying to teach it at the same time. Whereas, like you pointed out, Satterfield's run this offense and brought guys in that have run it with him forever, so they're able to be like, look, this is the offense, and this is what we need you to do. Go do it.
Yeah. And I thought they ran the ball well. Obviously, Corey Kiner had the biggest day with a 54-yard run, but even if you take that out, he still averaged 4.2 yards a carry. Guys had runs of 10, 12, 13 miles, was 7 for 43, so 6.1 yards a carry. And they're going to get better and better at running that. I mean, I don't know how much game planning they even did for EKU, but I mean, you're just getting ready. It's just all about reps. They're going to get better and better at running the ball. I felt like it was more efficient. I felt like it was, it just felt like you weren't just running the ball right up the center and the guard's ass. Like there was rhyme and reason to it, and guys were getting 3 yards, 5 yards, 7 yards, 13 yards. I thought what they did with Aaron Turner, you have the whole line is zone blocking down one way, and Turner is coming around behind the play in a bubble roll, and now they're running the option to him. Like there was just a lot of diversity in the play calling. You had 2 tight end sets. You had 5 wide, no running back sets. You had, Barack Falk or a tight end as an H-back lead blocker, and everybody's moving one way, and then Emory Jones is kind of peeling out and pitching it to Aaron Turner. I thought they did a good job, like moving Emory, not just like sprint outs, but little half rolls or just moving the pocket a little bit so the launch point is a little bit different and the defense doesn't know exactly where the quarterback's going to be. I thought he threw the ball well on the move too. I mean, 19 for 23, you're pretty accurate all the way around. But he threw the ball well on the move, put the ball in nice catchable spots. I think there's a lot to be encouraged about. I think if there was one thing that, to be critical about, I still think the tackles could be better.
Yes.
Both John Williams and DeAndre Buford had holding penalties. I think Williams was probably called 50% of the time. So, I mean, I understand Buford's was more like Emory got out of the pocket and he kind of just grabbed the guy, but he also gave up the pressure that allowed the strip sack fumble. So, still things to clean up there. I know I saw Philip Wilder came in midway through the third quarter with the rest of the starting group at right tackle. So that could be something, worth keeping an eye on. I'm not saying that they're going to make a change or anything, but it was a concern coming in. I thought they played okay, but there were certainly some areas where they can clean up their play especially when they go up against better, more productive outside pass rushers.
Yeah. And obviously, we talked about it last week. Like, this is a game where we just kind of wanted to see how things were going to mesh together and how things were going to start to look like they were fitting together, and it certainly looked like everything is fitting together very well. I mean, we scored 66 points, and in the last, I went all the way back to 2003, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, including the game yesterday. Since there's been 7 games we've scored 60 plus points. So, I mean, the last time we scored more than that was 2011 against Austin P with 72. I just feel like sometimes we would get into these games and UC wouldn't, you'd expect them to win. They would win the game, but it wouldn't be a drubbing, and that's something that you would expect to see, and certainly something you would expect to see on more, on teams that are been together a little longer, and you put together a team like this, and it's just, to me, it was just impressive that they were able to go out there, do what they needed to do, and not have, you're not like biting your nails to the end of the game, hoping that they're able to squeeze out a win over Eastern Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly, and the coaches will have way more things than we'll have to correct, but it's much easier to just take the first game of a new coaching staff, a ton of new guys. I'm more so looking at it big picture. Like, yes, if I wanted to really sit down, and I rewatched most of it this morning, just to make sure I was seeing, picked up on anything that I didn't see yesterday. But if we wanted to sit here and really drill down, I'm sure we could find a ton of mistakes.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
That's not really the point of, a first game, new coaching staff, new players. We wanted to see what did it look like? And I think the passed with flying colors. Let's talk a little bit defense, and then thankfully we can talk some games on paper stuff because it was on there, which is nice. But defense I thought was pretty vanilla. They didn't get a ton of pressure in the first half. Held EKU to 3 for 11 on third down. I think on their one touchdown drive in the first half, got a little out of spot on some run fits, allowed a 34-yard run. But outside of that run, they only gained 2.9 yards per carry. So they did a pretty good job overall. Daniel Gressick led the way, 7 tackles, a sack, forced fumble recovery, 2 tackles for loss. Justin Harris had an interception. I thought Justin Harris, when Sammy Anderson went out, I thought he played really well. He made a nice play, stopping the run, and then he almost had a pick six. And then the very next play, he gets the interception. So that was good to see. Brian Threats with an interception.
His interception was impressive because he was almost overrning where he, obviously he was covering on the backside of things, and it gets tipped up, and he just those always impressed me. There's when they snatch the ball from where it appears like their body is going this way and the ball is going this way. It's just like,
I thought they could have tackled a little bit better. Couple instances where I felt like they're, coming up and trying to knock a guy down with just throwing their shoulder into him, tackle a little bit better where you're playing a little bit different caliber of player that, that missed tackle turns into a much bigger play than it did. But again, I mean, you've got not as many new guys, but you've got several new guys. You got a new scheme. You're playing and I give EKU credit, they didn't try to limit possessions, or they didn't, they ran their stuff, and they've got a good quarterback, and they've got probably a much better offensive line than a lot of FCS teams have, especially from a size standpoint. I thought their guys were much more of an FBS type of line, but it was, I don't think they showed a lot defensively. I think they knew that unless they break a bunch of big plays, they're not just going to have a 10-play, 75-yard drives against us. So, again, just like on the offensive side, some things to clean up. But all in all, you got some pressure in the second half, got some sacks, forced some turnovers, did a good job on third down. No stupid penalties, no roughing the passer, no person, knocking a guy out of bounds when he's, clearly already out of bounds. So, again, pretty clean across the board.
Yeah. Going to need to be that way going forward as well. I mean, we've gone through a few years where it seemed like there's been a little bit of where we kind of sometimes sacrifice the discipline on the hopes of some, I don't know, maybe some bigger, like, quote unquote knockout kind of plays, and it's hurt us.
Yeah, there was one yesterday where Deshaun Pace, I was like, oh, there's some growth from Deshaun. He like could have just planted a guy out of bounds, and instead he just kind of like hugged him because he was already. I'm like, oh, your brother would have definitely got a 15-yard penalty last year for that one.
100%.
But we'll look at when we look at the game on paper, and if you're a analytics person or just like seeing the games broken down a little bit deeper, Game on Paper is a great. We'll give them a plug. Great website. The number that jumped out to me, and we'll see if did you have a chance to look at it yet?
I literally just pulled it up. I'm scrolling through quickly.
The number that jumps out to me, that's the good one in my opinion, is the 15.39 yards per drop back.
Well, that goes to the fact that there were 4 incompletions the entire game.
4 incompletions the whole game, and they threw for whatever, 400 and something yards. But yeah, I mean, a lot of green. Green's good. Dark purple's bad. Dark green's good. But 9.71 yards per play for the offense. Here's another good one. Over a point in expected points per drop back. So every time they dropped back yesterday, it was worth 1 point, no matter if they completed it or not. I mean, again, they only had 4 incompletions, so that certainly helps. But yes, every drop back was worth a point.
You're gonna win a lot of games if that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, there's not, they held, a team that threw for almost, I'm sure with the backup playing last year, but Parker McKinney threw for almost 4,000 yards last year, and they had negative 0.15 yards per drop back.
It's not going to get it done.
Yeah. But no, I mean, there's, again, we're taking the opponent and everything with a grain of salt. It'll be a much different experience next week up at Pitt. Certainly a different experience when Oklahoma comes to town after they just made Butch Jones cry on the sideline. I'm not sure anybody that's listening to this podcast is going to feel bad about that.
Yeah, probably not.
That was an interesting one. You're getting beat 73-0.
I think, yeah, it was. I saw the tweet go out and I was like, "Oh, I forgot he was there."
Maybe not for long.
Well, yeah. There were. That's maybe a story for another day.
Yeah, but you had 57% success rate overall offensively. That's in the 97th percentile, 65% third down success rate. I thought that was something that jumped out to me yesterday is with the run game, and and I've belabored this point, like with the way that they should be running the ball and the style that they run it, it should be much easier for them to just get 3 yards, to get 5 yards than it has been over the last couple of years. And we saw yesterday that was the case. Like there were a couple like long third downs, but like for the most part, it was not like they were sitting there at 3rd and 8 and Emory Jones is making a play and getting the ball, a wide receiver's making a crazy catch to convert a 3rd down or something. It was manageable stuff. And that's the biggest takeaway that I have from the running game is just putting them in such better positions to use their talent and, to use Emory Jones. And, his touchdown run, delayed blitz, kind of right up in his face, and then his athletic ability takes over, makes the guy miss, kind of scrambles out a little bit, and then cuts it back up the middle. Like, sometimes you just need your players to make an athletic play. Like, you're not always going to be able to block up everybody. I don't know if that was a missed assignment by someone. It might have been, or it might have just been, hey, all our guys are blocking and they send an extra guy and our guy has to make a play. And he didn't panic. He didn't, he made the play there. And I think that's, we talk about his running ability, and yes, we saw that on display several times, but his ability to move in the pocket, keep his eyes downfield, I was impressed with, and then just the plays that he's able to extend and then turn into, doesn't even have to turn him into a big play, but just get you out of
a positive play.
Right, get you out of a negative play. Like if he just takes a sack there, it's not a big deal. I don't even know if it was third down, but they were inside the red zone. Like they probably kick a field goal, whatever. But his ability is able to then turn that into a touchdown, and I think that's something we had been missing. With Bennett quarterback, that was such a big part of what Dez did. Was it wasn't necessarily just giving him the ball and saying run. It was that there'd be plays that split second slower guy or not as athletic guy, and it's a sack or a throwaway that he's turned into even if it's a 5-yard gain, a 7-yard gain.
Right. No, we talked about having him back there, and Hayden kind of touched on it a little bit as well. Just having him back there with the threat of the fact that he can run, but I mean, he had like 9 rushes, I think, which for somebody who's able to run, for him to kind of just I'll run when I have to, and I can do it well, but I can also throw the ball, and I'm very accurate when I throw the ball. And he's obviously, you're not looking at a freshman coming in, or even an underclassman that is trying. Like, he's got experience. He's played in big games. He's done. He was very good at Florida. Obviously, can't really hold a lot of the Arizona State stuff to any value really because of the situation and stuff going on out there. But just he's very impressive. Obviously, we have a big game against Pitt next week, and we'll see how it translates there. But my confidence level is ever growing in this team, and maybe that's to a detriment. But
I think it's all right. I mean, there was so much unknown. If people want to be over their skis after 1 week, go ahead. I mean, that's not gonna bother me. I think there's a lot of good to take away from it, and some stuff that I know that they'll see and that is very correctable. So, but again, the cliche is the team takes its biggest step from week 1 to week 2. So we'll see if that cliche holds true or not. But then you're also going from a home game against an FCS team to a road game against a similarly talented team as you. So it'll, how much of what we saw last week do we see next week, or is it totally different and we're okay, maybe the competition played more of a factor into it. Anybody else, offense, defense, that you want to spotlight that you thought had a good performance?
I can't pronounce his last name, but the kid from Utah State that came in,
Daniel Brezic.
Yep, there we go. I thought, I like his energy. The dude is, and he's with 2 tackles for loss, a sack, 7 total tackles, 5 solo tackles. Obviously, you got Deshaun Pace, who I think is settling into that star role very very nicely. He seemed to be kind of flying around, even on. I think there was one, maybe I don't know if he missed the tackle,
and then he chased it down.
down. Mm-hmm. So you're gonna have those a little bit of maybe a little overcommitment on the initial attempt, but then turning around and being able to run it down.
I thought Eric Phillips had a nice game. 2 tackles, sack. Both tackles were for loss. Chased down. It was a bad snap, but Parker McKinney can run. He's got outside, chased him down. So that's an important one to me. Whether it's him, whether it's somebody else, I think we know what Greshik can be and is. But who is another guy or 2 or whatever, whether it's a defensive end, whether it's a linebacker, who's another guy that's going to be somebody that can put pressure on the quarterback, because you're not going to be able to live very long if you just have kind of one guy. Somebody else is going to have to, whether it's Malik, whether it's Phillips, whether it's Jamal Williams, Pace, who knows? Like somebody
else has to step up.
have to be able to pressure the quarterback when we get into the Big 12, or they're not going to be able to have this, blitzing mentality if they don't think the guys are going to get there, because they're going to put their DBs out on islands, and that won't work as well for them. So it was nice to see him have a good first game. I don't know. I think Emory Jones on the offense was.
Yeah, you can pretty much just pick a name and say, like, list off the good things that they did.
Obviously, the main storyline. So, anything from the rest of college football, other than kind of being, like, if we're being honest, like, kind of a dud weekend.
Well, we said that it was going to be.
I've watched what I think are a lot of mediocre teams so far this weekend.
I mean, we said last week when we started looking at what was going on that there was not a lot of exciting games going on this week. I mean, obviously you've got Colorado beating TCU, and Travis Hunter, who I think played every snap of the game, both sides of the ball, which is insanity. But he did it well. I don't know how long that's sustainable for. I guess he did it last year, but like I don't really know how sustainable that is at this level. He looked good doing it though. Ohio State only won by 20 over Indiana. I didn't think that was going to be the case. I thought it would be a lot more than that, but the quarterback things going on there that we mentioned last week. Michigan only scored 7 second half points, but I don't really know and they only won. I mean, they won 30-3, so it's not like it was a blowout, like a crazy blowout going in that they like pulled everybody. And maybe they did. I didn't watch the game, but just from looking at it here, and that's not like it's an uncomfortable victory at 27 points. So, but that's your preseason champion right there.
Well, I mean, we all know what Mike Houston and the boys in East Carolina can do. So, I mean, I think looking at the Big 12 specifically, it's an interesting games. I mean, obviously, Colorado beats TCU. Texas State pretty much handled Baylor, like 42-31. And, I mean, for the most part, it really wasn't ever in doubt. Houston beats UTSA 17-14. I thought UTSA would actually win, but so I guess that's a good win for them. Oklahoma State struggled with Central Arkansas, only beat them 27-13. Kansas ended up winning by a lot the other night, but they were in a pretty close game for the entire first half. So I think that, it is what we've talked about, though. I mean, I think there's a lot of Big 12 teams that are kind of in that muddled middle, so to speak, and we'll kind of see who separates themselves. But, again, week one, I'm not going to pretend to know the opponents that they're playing and if they're, what their situations are, but you just look at box scores and you're like, that's an interesting one. Maybe it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
It just means, well, let's keep an eye on this over the next couple of weeks. If a team played an FCS game and didn't look particularly well, and now they play an FBS game the next week, like, does that, I'm being interested to see, like, Oklahoma State didn't play well against Central Arkansas. Now they go to Arizona State, who's not really good. But how do they look from one week to the next?
Yeah, how does that change things? And
right.
Like, I mean, same goes for UC. You play EKU, now you got to go to Pitt, and then right after that you've got Oklahoma rolling in here. Is there 73-0 win over Arkansas State really worth 73-0 over Arkansas State? Like, Where does that land them? I, I don't even know who do they play next week. Do they even have like
Oklahoma?
Yeah,
They play SMU.
Okay.
They're on the AAC schedule, so they got SMU then Tulsa before they play us.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but yeah,
it's nice going to ESPN and not having to go to the AAC. I can just click Big 12
AAC page.
Also, maybe that game yesterday will quell everybody's thoughts on white helmets.
I like white helmets.
I like the white helmets.
I liked the unis yesterday. I thought it was nice. The names popped real nice. You could read them nicely from the stands. Yeah, Josh says don't forget about fake Miami in week 3.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see Buddy
from
Miami
Bowl?
this week? Did you see him this week? Their quarterback, how he said we're the real Miami.
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't go great.
I don't know that anybody expected that to go very well for him. But like, to his credit, like, what's he supposed to say? Like, oh no, we're
I don't think you have to say we're the real Miami. I mean,
maybe not. Maybe not. But
I think there were other things he could have said besides that.
Yeah, we're really gonna give it our all. And what we got tonight, we do have what the FSU game is tonight.
Yeah, we do, and I don't know if I can watch it or not because of Spectrum.
Oh, that's not good.
So we'll find out. I think I'm getting YouTube TV shortly.
That's a good decision.
As in, like, shortly, I mean, like, maybe by the time we're done with this podcast.
It's good. It's a good one. And now that there's games on Fox and stuff that I can watch, I upped it to the 4K version. But
does that cost more money?
Yes.
Oh.
But then you have Clemson and Duke, that's tomorrow night, and Duke unveiled some neat helmets that they're gonna wear.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen those yet. I'll have to check that out.
Just says Duke on the side of the helmet in fancy writing.
Well, I mean, when we get off of here, everybody can get excited for Northwestern Rutgers at noon. Well, watch Ben Bryant.
I think I'm going to go to my daughter's soccer game instead and watch 5-year-olds run around in circles.
I don't blame you. That one might not be very pretty.
No.
Might not be very pretty. Don't have a ton. Obviously we have NFL opening game Thursday night and then opening week Sunday. So we'll see. We may have some Travis Kelce, Brian Cook conversation next week after the Chiefs Lions game.
We can also say, like Ivan Pace.
Yeah,
did
Ivan
what
Pace.
We thought he would do.
What a stunner! Couldn't imagine.
Right. I think we actually talked about it on the show last year. It was kind of the same thing that we thought once he got an opportunity to get on the field, it would be very difficult for somebody to be like, yeah, we don't want that guy. So
it is a great reminder of getting drafted is great, but him not getting drafted versus going in the 6th or 7th round and then picking to go to Minnesota was beneficial to him. I don't know how many fold, because that defense was a mess last year. They basically started over. And he had a very, very clear path to making the team. To where people are like, oh, I wish the Bengals would have drafted him. Well, I mean, yeah, I wish the Bengals would have drafted him because I'm a Bengals fan and an Ivan Pace fan. But he's not starting over Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt.
Right.
So where would he rather go? Would he rather fight to make the team on the Bengals or go to a place where he knows if I do what I can do, and do what I think I can, think I'm capable of, I can be a starter in the NFL. So, yeah, he's probably making a little bit more money, but, you want to play. You want to be in a situation where you can get on the field. And
put tape out there that is relevant tape in an NFL game so that if for whatever reason something else comes up and, it's time to move on to another team or something, you have that as opposed to, hey, look at, my shuttle run that I did at the training facility last week.
Right. That doesn't help you if you don't ever play. So, good. I'm very happy for him. It's got a good defensive coordinator there. Hopefully they, take some steps this year, and because I think they got a chance to, I think they'll be right there. That division's pretty wide open with Aaron Rodgers gone now. So I think, I might not say any of the teams, but some of the teams can win the division. I think them and the Lions are probably the favorites, but I'm not gonna put the Bears on there. That's for sure.
All right.
But I think that about wraps it up. I mean, we hit the game pretty well. We'll obviously have Pitt next week. That's a 6:30 kickoff on the CW. So better,
I don't even.
I guess try to find that. That's a new one for me. I have no idea what channel that is.
I think that's the old Star 64.
All right.
Yeah. So.
But again, thanks to Hayden Moore. Thanks to Royal Links Golf Tours for their continued partnership. Make sure you reach out to him or Jeff if you're planning a British Isles golf trip. Thanks to sick Aaron Smith for helping us out and producing the show this morning. Thanks to my great partner Jeff Howe. Thanks to all of you. Had a nice full room today, so I'm glad everybody's getting back in the swing of things after a busy Labor Day weekend of football. So we will be back again at 10 o'clock next Sunday morning to recap the Pittsburgh game on the third episode of the Bearcat Brunch. Have a great day, everybody.